radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Well. Good evening. Fade to Black. That's right. Today is Monday, May 19th, 2025. Let's do this, man. I am banging my crystals on the table. Why am I banging? Oh, Lori Spagna is on the show. That's why I'm banging crystals over here. Another week about to kick off right here on Fade to Black, and another amazing week. Tonight, of course, Lori is with us. We're going to be talking about raising your vibration. I'm doing that right now with my crystals and, of course, my guitar pick. Tomorrow night, Dana Louise is with us, and I've titled the show, This Is Going to Sound Weird. That's the name of her book. Yes, Wednesday night, Thomas Jane, the actor, is back with us. His book, A Human's Guide to Visiting Aliens, is what we're going to be talking about. And then Thursday night, it's Jason Quitt. He's got a new book out, and it's called Astral Experiences. So I guess it's book week here on Fade to Black. I haven't done that in quite a while. Yeah, I love it when we kick off a brand new week here on the show. What was I going to say? Oh, okay. Let's get house cleaning out of the way. I've got 3 major events coming up. I've got Contact in the Desert in a couple of weeks, May 29th through June 2nd, right here in Palm Springs, California. Right after that, I go south to South America with Brian Forster for the Inca Celebration of the Sun in Peru. This tour is sold out. We have a second tour coming up in November. Links are below, Hidden Inca Tours. Then I come back from that for the Psy Games, August 1st through the 3rd, 2025 in Charlottesville, Virginia. Yeah, Charlottesville, Virginia. Yeah. The Psychic Olympics. Yeah, man. I'm a game show host. You got to love that. All right. So that's coming up in August 1st through the 3rd. A couple of things. If you look below in the description, you will see a link for the Monty Python tour that I am hosting next year in Scotland. This is going to be great. Starting tomorrow, everything will be released on social media. But there's your sneak peek right there. You can click on that link, head over, look at the entire tour, everything that we have got planned. This is a true 5-star event. It's going to sell out immediately. Get signed up right now. The links are below. Once this hits social media tomorrow, it's probably going to sell out, but or close to it. So if you would like to go to Scotland, Monty Python, we've got so many things. So go and just click on the website and go through and check out this tour. That is going to be a lot of fun. And next thing, before I bring Lori in, my daughter comes over, Nicole. She comes over on Saturday. And I bought her a few things. I got her an iPad, and so she came over to pick that up. We went out to dinner, went over to the Raven's Nest and had a great time over there. So we're sitting at the Raven's Nest, and the family that owns the place, Kat, and her brother and sister, Lenny, and Amelia's the chef. She's absolutely amazing. So they're all coming by the table, sitting down and talking and stuff. And Nicole being Nicole, she's just wonderful. So anyway, this conversation swings around to my face. Yeah. And, it's lady talk. It's woman talk. And, cleansers and moisturizers and things. And, what they've ever. And Nicole's like, Dad, we've got to fix your face. I was like, what's wrong with my face? Well, you need to do this. I said, what? I got to do what every night? And I turned to Kat. I go, you do that every single night? She goes, I do it every night. You do this and then this and yes, every single night. I said, all right. So I hand my daughter my phone. I said, order me what I need. I'll take your advice. And she did. And now this hard ass, Harley riding, leather wearing, heavy metal listening dude has got facial products. And I did it Saturday. I did it last night. I did it this morning. I got to say, feels pretty good. Doesn't look any different, but feels good. All right. So I've come clean with everybody. Tonight, Lori Spagna is on with us. And I've called the show Raise Your Vibration. And she raises my vibration every time I'm around her. She knows that. And I love, you know what I'm going to say this now before I bring her in. One of the coolest things I can do is, well, try to make Lori blush. And I do it. I do it every time we're in public. I do it because she's special and she makes me feel great. And everybody around her just gets lifted up. And I make her very aware of that. She's absolutely amazing and she glows. She's one of my favorite people. So I'm not going to make her blush tonight because hopefully she's blushing right now before I bring her in. We're going to be talking about raising your vibration. I've got a bunch of links and gifts and special things that Lori is gifting our audience. Those are up in the chat, and all of you moderators out there, copy those links and repost them again throughout the show. We're going to talk about clearing karmic blocks. Yeah. Your intuition. We're going to do that. Your higher self, your purpose, right? Manifestation, one of my favorite things to do, and how to become your best person. She's got books. She's an author. Why? Because it's book week here on Fade to Black. Her links are below on our website and throughout social media. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black the one and Lori Spagna. Lori, did you blush?
I don't know. Tell me. I'm so grateful to be here and happy to be with you. And Jimmy, I love you so much. I just love being around you. You're so much.
You're fun. You bring
like,
you bring the joy out of me. You bring the joy out. I remember one year, and I was pushing it with you for like 4 days. And you were like, Jimmy, are you being serious? I said, I am being serious. You remember that.
I always feel like that. I always wonder because I think you're describing yourself. You light everybody up. I just think you're so full of joy yourself. And by the way, in namology, J is the letter of joy.
Is that right?
Yes, you carry the frequency of joy.
Okay. All right.
Yes. And I'm always like, where's my wedding ring? Because I keep telling you, you keep saying we're gonna get married. I'm like,
yeah, I know. Man, I pushed it right to the limit a couple of times, didn't I?
Yeah.
But what was funny is getting turned down. That was the other thing. You're like, no, Jimmy, sorry, no.
No, you turned me down. I think it was.
Oh, did I really?
I don't know.
No. Now you're just saying stuff. But it's really true. I want everybody to know that I just love hanging out with Lori so much. And I remember it was probably 8 years ago. Back when we very, very first met, and you and I just had a really cool conversation. It was in public. And I turned to you, I looked right in your eyes. I said, you're on the next show, and that's it. I want what we are doing right now, this conversation. I want this to be the show. And you always bring it. So thank you for that. And let's do it again tonight. And listen, I kind of want to start here if I can. And it's not a dark question, but it kind of is. I mean, it's a kind of a weird place to start. What the heck is wrong with our world? I mean, what is going on right now? Everybody, doesn't matter your thing, your sex, your background, your religious beliefs, your political, none of that matters. Who you are, none of that matter. Everybody's talking about the same thing. Man. Ooh, right?
It's hitting
That's
the
the
fan.
conversation. Yeah, yeah. What's going on?
What's really going on is humanity is being liberated. Humanity is being liberated. It's just that it's almost like when you're liberated and you've been living under like shackles for an entire lifetime, you don't necessarily know what to do with your freedom or how to use it. So when I say liberated, it's happening in multiple ways. On the one level, on the physical level, we're being liberated from an old paradigm, or we could say, and it's hard to see it right yet, but you can tell things are collapsing from that old paradigm of, false authorities, fake, false, phony authorities, and a patriarchal system, right? And it's not even about, it's just the system of hierarchy and fear-based dominance, right? Control, domination, manipulation. So on the physical level, we're being liberated. And so in a way, the old systems are collapsing, and at the same time, new systems are being created. But on a spiritual or energetic level, we're being liberated from, what you call the third paradigm, third dimension, or third paradigm. And what that really is the game of unconsciousness. So what that really means is that we're being liberated and elevated into a new bandwidth of consciousness where we're going to become active, conscious co-creators in our reality. And that means we have to up level. We have to up level how we do life.
And when I say I'm just talking about Earth in general. We've always talked about this. I mean, this goes back thousands of years, and it was never achieved, but it's how many establishments and governments and hierarchies and monarchies and everything have been crushed, overthrown, fallen apart. And it just seemed, how many revolutions have there been, right? And that, okay, here we go. And then it's just right back to where we started again. But this time around, it does seem a little bit different. Is it because evolution is inevitable? We're just at that stage?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, what I do is the work that I do is all about bringing in consciousness from the non-physical that hasn't been here before. So what I'm about to share is from that perspective. It's that humanity is elevating out of what we call a third dimensional paradigm where we've been operating in separation. And so that requires us to become conscious co-creators and to begin recognizing our role in the creation process. So when you talk about all of the, monarchies and dynasties and revolutions that have fallen, all of that, this is something entirely new. It's that now humans are realigning with our co-creative abilities to consciously understand how reality actually is created through our consciousness. In other words, through our mental and emotional plane, through our energetic field, through our spiritual energy and consciousness, karmic patterns, etc. And so as we're elevating and starting to realize and recognize our roles and how we're playing that, there's an agenda going on, right? There's a lot of agendas, but the agenda of the light is the agenda. You could call it God's plan for lighted creation. That's what I call it. But if you don't like seeing it that way, it's the plan for humanity's evolution. So what that means is that as we're elevating, there's an agenda for humans to become more conscious co-creators and participants, co-creators and co-participants with the divine that's really entering into this reality in a more conscious way in and through us. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And it also, this time it's different.
Yes, it's all new.
Yeah,
It's all
yeah.
new.
This time it's different. It seems more tangible than ever before. Like you can just, you know what I mean? It kind of feels like that. If you go back and look at ancient cultures like South America, Central America, and certainly Egypt, even Greece, if you want to pull that in, where all of this was discussed and practiced. And then they just kind of let it go. They were in touch with their spiritual selves.
Yes.
and it's really strange. It's taken us, almost 5,000 years to circle back around and get this going once again.
Yeah. Well, the thing is what's really interesting is this paradigm that's coming to a completion. It's even beyond what was known then, because even the great prophecies aren't all coming true. For example, one of the great prophecies was that Pope Francis would be the last pope. And we see that that's not happening. Why? Because the new paradigm did not allow for the old to come into the present and into the future. In other words, what's so different now is that we are being required in a sense to leave everything from our past in terms of linear time behind. That means all of our wounding patterns, all of our traumas, all of the ways that we've operated that actually don't serve our betterment or that are to our harm or detriment. And that requires us to become much more conscious, because we have to start recognizing what are the patterns that I've played out in the past or that I've somehow participated in that just haven't gotten me really anywhere but here. In other words, the things that are no longer serving my most benevolent best, any of ours, so that the trajectory that we're all beginning to align ourselves with consciously and even unconsciously, ultimately, is that which is for our most benevolent best and always ideally with harm to none. We might not fully realize that yet, but that is what's going on. That
Man,
is the
that's
agenda.
strong. That's
Yeah,
strong.
that's the agenda for the future of humanity.
Now, I love the journey. All right. And we're all on a journey. I talk about it every day, Lori. We're all on a journey. And I didn't want to mention this, but and I don't want this to be a part of the conversation. Okay. I'm going to say this one time. I won't say it on a future show. My dad died on Saturday. Okay. Saturday.
I'm so sorry.
And no, it was just one of those things where it's the journey. So I had a little prep going into this. No, I'm sorry. He died on Friday. I told my daughter on Saturday. He died on Friday. And had a little prep going. 88. All right. He didn't get in a car accident. Right. He just got old and died. Okay. So there's that part. But anyway, my way of dealing with it is my way of dealing with it. And I kind of dealt with it years ago when he was 82, 83, 84, right? Yeah, okay. All right. So, but I'm giving this advice to the audience. So Friday, as I thought about this, man, your dad died this morning. Man, your dad, is that it's all the journey. Before you start unpacking daddy issues or child crisis or any of that, all of that just brings you to where you are. That's all. What, you want to run around with your dick in the dirt and right? No, that doesn't do anything. It's all a part of the journey. And that's what I want to impart on everybody else. So, Lori, I'm going to ask you, how do we navigate this friggin' road, man? We know the journey is there and the road is in front of us. How do we start to realize and navigate?
Can I ask you, does it feel helpful to you to know that there's a physical death, but the consciousness that is your father continues to live on? Is that something you're aligned with? Does that make sense for you? And does that help?
Well, I realized that a long time ago, again, on my own journey. And when my mom passed, putting my dad aside, I realized that, that just happened. But when my mom passed, I talked to her that day and I was flying out the next morning. She was in Florida. I was out here in California. And I'm talking to her. I'm like, Mom, hang on. She said, hang on. They kept resuscitating her, right? And she's telling me on the phone, let me go. Right? Just let me go. Go. Man.
Move on.
Yeah. And I said, Mom, just wait. I'll be there. be there tomorrow morning. Just hang on. Talking to the doctors are like, man, we've done this like 20 times. I said, just anyway, when she passed, I wanted, all children have this right. You know what that God-given right is? Damn it, your mom comes to see you at the foot of your bed. Right. I didn't get that. I was pretty upset. Yeah. And people have said to me, and I know, I'm going to answer your question as directly as possible. I know she's out there continuing her journey. I can tell you this. She was done with this version. She was done. She's out partying with the Golden Girls out there doing whatever she's doing. But the Earth version, her thing here, she was worn out. She was a trooper. She was my hero. And, but I don't think she's like, you know what, son? Jimmy is like this. Late, so I didn't get that. I know that that's where they are, and they're continuing, but I was deprived the right of that.
Not the right. How do you know it didn't happen and you just didn't necessarily?
Everybody says that to me, and I get that, and that's totally possible, totally. But as far as the vivid, like, Lori, check this out. My mom came to me in my room last night. No, not that.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, it's not too late for you to ask. What I can say, especially about your dad, is that, and even this, before I even say that, let me say this, that I channel a group called The Collective, right? These are thousands of non-physical, some interstellar beings, but galactic beings, angelics, ascended masters. They come, who comes is who's needed at the time. Sometimes animal kingdom members. And what they all say is that there are two things that are never an accident in life. One is the moment of birth, and the other is the moment of death. And what they also say is that at the moment of death, it's because the soul has chosen and said, essentially, I have completed everything I came here to do in this physical life, in this physical experience. However, the essence, of course, the essence of who they are as consciousness continues, right? But the energy that is essentially non-physical energy,
right,
that was their body. So that's like the substance of their energetic body that remains in the physical and usually is passed on to the closest members of their soul family, which is very often their children, their spouses, or their siblings or partners, of course. So the essence of your dad, that energy, is available life force that in a sense he will gift to you since you're his son. And it's up to you to claim it in a sense. I know this is maybe sounds out there, but it's like it's one of the gifts they leave behind because they can't take that.
What if you don't want it?
Well, if you don't want it, you don't have to take anything. We live in a free world reality.
Lori, I apologize. Want's a strong way to put it. What if you don't need it?
Right. But it's not that you don't need it because it's pure energy. It's not their personality self. It's the crystalline structure, because our bodies are made up of more than just physical, right? What we are made up of, like I'm sure you maybe have heard this, the Russian tea doll, right? Is basically, we're like an orb energetically, and the orb of the substance of who we are is larger than the size of a house, a 2-story house, larger than 55 feet in diameter. And like a Russian tea doll, every one of the orb levels around us is an energetic field of energy that is energy, life force. And when the person departs, they leave that life force here. It's none of the crap of their personality self or what people call their egoic structure, their egoic identity. It's the life force. So when you say you don't need it, well, you have your own, but it's a gift because it's energy, it's life force. And it allows you whoever's willing to receive it. And most people, we don't know that we do it, but the way that we receive it is simply by loving them and being grateful for them and recognizing their role in our lives. And even if there's grief associated with their departure, of course, there's grief and there's loss, that's still the remembrance of our love for them. So that's part of how we receive that. If we don't want it, you won't, you just don't. You just, if you cut yourself off or you say, I'm not interested, or I don't want it, or I don't want to think about them, or I don't want to know, different people handle this stuff differently, but it's available to you if you so choose. And ultimately it's really just life force. That's all it is. It's what was allowing the remainder of, or his life to be embodied and what's left behind. Right.
Yeah.
It's a little out there, but it's real. It's very real.
No, it's 100% real. It's 100% real. People, grief is a funky thing. That is one of the strangest, most powerful emotions that you can go through.
Yeah.
And I would say, and seriously, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but the grief of losing a pet I think is harsher to most people than a family member.
Love
what I mean?
Love is love. And when you feel
right.
like you've lost that love, it doesn't matter if it's
it's hard,
whoever the love is. But you know what? Here's the thing. Grief is energy. This is one of the parts of humanity's evolution. This is linked to like what's going on planet Earth, is that everything is energy. So grief, even though it's an emotion, it's in the emotional body. It's one of those layers of our multidimensional field, of one of those fields. So the emotional body, which can store up grief or can attract grief or attach to the energy of grief in the case of loss, that energy, if that energy is cleared from someone's field, what's left? Love and consciousness, because that's really what there is. Love is an energy. Yep. That's it. So because the truth is that if everything's energy, which it is, grief is an energy. So grief is not an indication of how much somebody loved. It's an indication of grief and loss. When the energy of grief is lifted and removed, which it can be with an energy worker, with consciousness, then what remains is the love for the being, whether it was a human or an animal. And this is what I'm saying as I link it to the evolution on Earth. We're starting to recognize that everything is energy. And just because we might feel sadness or depression or sorrow or grief or loneliness or isolation, any of those energetic emotions, because emotions are energy, that we've felt we can call that in that old paradigm, because those are the energies of separation, right? Feeling lonely, isolated, sad, shameful, grief, depression, all those things. Those energies can be cleared from our field. When they're cleared, we are liberated of that density. What replaces it? What replaces that energy? More the truth of who we are, which is love, divine peace, divine inspiration, divine optimism, divine grace. Those are more of the energies of the truth of who we are. And this is part of how we raise our vibration. We say, I am not this grief. I am not this depression. I am not anger. Those are just energies. So
it sounds good, but man, it's hard to work through, isn't it? I mean, you are right, but man,
hard to work through.
Lori, when somebody, and the conversation happens all too often, you'll be with and when the talk of somebody will come up and say, oh man, I've got to take my cat to the vet, this is going on. And then the person to your right's going to go, yeah, I just lost my dog of 15 years. And then somebody to your left says, yeah. And the next thing, and I'm like, you know what? I can't have this conversation. I can't do it. It just rips me apart.
Right.
And
but that's only because you're resonating. And I'm not suggesting that. I mean, I've lost animals too. And I mean, it's painful when we lose someone we love. a parent or an animal or anyone. So I'm not denying that that's real. What I am saying is that that's part of this old paradigm where we allowed energies, emotions, thoughts, beliefs, belief systems, opinions, judgments, and the external world overall to control, dominate, and manipulate us, even especially external authorities. So as we start to recognize any particular energy, such as grief or sadness or any of these, anger, as we start to recognize this is energy, and even though it feels so encompassing, it is not the truth of who I am. I am greater than this energy. And then we can start to learn tools for using it. For example, let's take the energy of anxiety, or anything that's in that kind of field, like anxiety or fear. That's like a fear-based energy. Most people, the way they deal with it is they try to repress and suppress it, right? Or maybe they go to a doctor who might give them some kind of pharmaceutical drug to not feel it. But we know those are kind of band-aids, right? But it's such a simple tool to recognize it's just energy. And if it takes over the body for a few moments and the person is like, I am the love that this grief or this fear or this anxiety is looking for, and I'm going to be that love, recognizing that it's energy, and that one can take that energy in to replace the old energy and allow that old energy to move. It really is something that we can learn to do. That's my point. We can learn to transmute that so that it doesn't have to take us over anymore. So that anxiety, fear, and all those, depression, all of those energies don't have to take us down anymore. And this is really where we're headed, I think.
Do you think that with the invention of worldwide real-time knowledge, news events, live streaming, where everything now is worldwide, where just a few decades ago, it was 3 channels on TV and things were delayed. And then even before that, the knowledge of the world was just localized, right? But now today, I have to tell you, empathy and emotions are always in check with me when I'm reading about Ukraine or Gaza and stuff like that. That is real time. That Pakistan India thing, man, I was just freaking out. And that's because we now have knowledge of the world in real time, and emotionally we're involved with that. So the emotions that you have with a pet, you can have that same feeling for, I can't imagine being a family, being a dad with kids in Gaza.
Yeah.
Or Ukraine, right? Or how I can't.
But this is what you're calling forward, a higher virtue, which is divine compassion.
Right.
That's a real virtue. That's a quality that allows us to care about our fellow humans, our brothers and sisters on earth, and to bring, because you're using a different frequency, divine compassion, caring about another human being or about the earth or about what's going on. That's very different from suffering. Okay. Let's be clear. It is a kind of suffering if you're going to suffer with them or for them. But if you're truly in the energy of divine compassion, that you just truly care and you desire to, in some way, shape, or form, if it's possible, make some contribution to support or assist the alleviation of the suffering, that is a divine virtue, to care. Some people don't.
That's right. And that's part of raising your vibration.
For sure. Because the energy of divine compassion, one of the things that I was told years ago, when some of these events started happening where we were seeing things globally, and I remember, our last conversation was the night before COVID hit. It had just hit. That was our conversation the last time I was on your show. And this is the thing I was told, is that a lot of these events are happening to help humans awaken more of our divine compassion, because that's the frequency. There are 2 frequencies that begin to elevate people out of density. One is divine gratitude and the other is divine compassion. They are also the frequencies that open the heart portal, right? The heart portal is nothing. It's just our hearts are magnetic. We know that there's brain matter in the heart, right? There's plenty of research on that now. Institute of Heart Math, of course, studying and documenting. And that when we start to awaken that heart brain, the way that part of how it gets awakened is through really compassionately caring and also feeling the gratitude for life and for living. So that opens up and activates more of the brain matter in our heart, the heart brain, that's going to help us elevate and make it through these challenging times that we're going through. That's part of the evolution, because again, as we raise our frequency, we are able to not only thrive better in these difficult times, but also contribute in the world in a new way. Because the new paradigm involves a lot more, how may I contribute? Because the fastest road to joy, by the way, since you're joy, is through service and contribution, not like service to your detriment, but joyful contribution. And isn't that what you're doing on Fade to Black? Isn't that like, aren't you so good at this because you love it? It's your joy.
And you know what? Damn it. Part of my mission is to make people laugh.
Yes, you do that all the time.
Oh man.
You are so funny.
Because I love laughing.
Yeah.
I just I get, if I want to change my vibration, right? I watch something funny.
Yes.
I read something funny. I listen to something funny, and that changes my vibration immediately. And,
do you know what else you do all the time that raises your vibration?
What's that?
Music.
Oh yeah. 100%. 100%. So, okay. When I first started going to conferences, and you've been doing this for a while, so it's okay to laugh at what I'm about to say, but it's really true. Conferences, until I arrived, took themselves too seriously.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, stoic, just up there. Okay, we're going to elevate to 5D. Dude, slow down. Slow down. My near-death experience. Let me take you through. And they walked you through a night. It was almost fear-based, and people taking their abductions and sightings, all serious. And you know what? We need to change. We need to lighten this up. All of that is great. And I'm into all of that. Yes. But damn it, it's okay to laugh a little bit too. And loosen this thing up. And so having people come up to me now over the last 5-10 years going, you know what, Church? Thank you, man. You made that whole room laugh today. And it wasn't done with intention. It's that I'm not wearing a mask. Right? I'm
You're a very authentic guy. You are.
Yeah.
You're living very authentically.
Yeah.
That's part of this too. It really is about us rediscovering and reclaiming our joy for life, our inner joy, because that is a divine virtue, divine joy, our ability to play, innocent play, our abilities to live without fear, our abilities to share and play joyfully and to contribute in the world. And laughter and music are all ways that we do that, and getting in touch with nature, being in outside and enjoying nature. All of those are things that we have forgotten to do, in a sense, in a world where basically the way we've been living was, this kind of like, I got to survive, I got to put food on the table, I got to pay the bills. And that took us out of that. So part of why we're seeing so many of these changes is that it's a reclaiming of our right to just recognize, like, if we're not happy, none of it's worth it. If we're not enjoying life, and not in a way that's harmful to us or anyone else, but in a way that's positively uplifting to us, So yeah, if it's music that you love, if it's laughter, if it's, innocent play, whatever it is, it's about reclaiming that. And then through like following our passion and our joy, that's where we get to birth from within those parts of us that have something new and unique to offer, that's unique and appropriate for us as individuals to bring forward.
That's powerful. I love that. I love that. I'm going to throw a metaphor at you, and I want you to tell me how to fix it. I often equate life and people that complain too much, that they are jumping into a pool and trying to walk. You know, when you're trying to walk in water, right? And it's hard, right?
Yeah.
That's life. And then you jump out of the pool and it's like, oh, I can walk. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, you need to remove what's holding you back, that resistance. And it's hard to do. You have luggage. You've got 100-pound suitcases, Samsonite luggage, right?
Yes.
Hanging off of you that you're pulling. Cut that shit. Right? Right? Drop the luggage off. But
Yes.
how do we do that?
Well, first of all, I just want to say one thing that's lighting up, and then is that you got to understand, because you mentioned the thing about complaining. There's a law of cause and effect in this reality. At a certain frequency, law of cause and effect goes away. But in the reality that we live in, cause and effect. So what is the effect of complaining? If one complains, or if one is miserable or unhappy, or creating some form of suffering for themselves or others, the effect of that is that you're going to experience more of it. So you kind of have, this is part of the consciousness raising, is that you have to start saying, what is the benefit of this thought or this word or these words or this sentence, this complaining, this emotion? Is this really benefiting me? Is it really serving me? Because the law of cause and effect combined with the other universal laws, you're just going to get more of that. So you have to ask, is this like really what you want? Is it really serving you? Is that the effect you want to create? But when you asked before, like, well, how do we lift that up? How do we get rid of that stuff? Number one, as an energy worker, like as we start learning how to use energy, we will start realizing that that's just energy. It doesn't have to define us. In fact, it doesn't define us. But there's lots of ways to get rid of that. When we're talking about raising our vibration, we just talked about some of the ways. Go out and play, go out and have fun, harm to none. Just be passionate, find your passion to start exploring. What do I like? What do I enjoy? What do I want to do? What lights me up? And then, of course, breathing techniques are a big one, right? Because even though those expos may be serious or overly serious, there are some amazing tools that you can learn in those expos and at those conferences. For example, certain breathing patterns and breathing techniques, you can learn how to breathe and pull up out of you just through energy, pull up out of you the energies of, let's say, complaining or being any form of suffering or any energy that you don't like. You can literally kind of like suck it up out of you in a way. And when you take in your next inhale, as big, full as you can, breathe in a new energy that you desire. Now that might sound so ridiculous, and yet it's really true, because we're made up of energy. So if the energy is like, oh, it's like quicksand, I'm carrying around all this baggage. All right, well, there's ways to get rid of that energetically and replace it, right? Just even through breath work, just through really extraordinarily powerful breath technique.
Do you know, I'm trying to think of his name here in a second. I was with a breathing expert last weekend in Chicago. All right. And so I would ask him a question, right? It doesn't matter. So what do you think about the vibration of the world today? This is, you know how he answered? And then he would answer. Yeah, he'd always take this deep breath. And so I started doing it.
Yeah.
And it works.
It does work.
It's
it
crazy.
Really works.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
whole thing. This is part of what I mean when I say we're shifting out of an old paradigm where everything was done through the brain, and that the brain is just too limited of a tool. But that's part of our ancestry, right? That's part of the reptilian heritage that we're evolving out of, that we were overutilizing our left brain. We're not even fully utilizing in a conscious way our brain's full capacity. But as we're starting to develop more of our brain's full capacity and unify it with our heart brain and our gut brain, that stuff is awakening in us, right? We're realizing it's just energy. We can shift everything. We're so powerful. We're so magnificent. And yet we're playing small because of the way we've been conditioned and, in a sense, programmed. And we keep, it's like what's happening in the world, in a sense, even going back to your earliest question or what you were bringing up at the very onset of our call, of our time together, was that it's like what's happening is the way we've been functioning is not working. And we're having to find from within us something so new, so progressed, and it can't be based on using the old ways that we've been. So we have to find it from within. And it's in all of us. We
Okay,
all
okay,
have
okay.
magnificence there.
Pump the brakes there, kid. Pump the brakes.
All right.
Okay. In the interest of transparency, I'm just going to tell the audience, I don't hang out on social media much, except for when I'm stalking Lori in the background. Right. Okay. So, to your point, I want you to tell us what happened. So you posted, this was probably 3 months ago. You did this post, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but you know exactly what I'm getting at. You did this post. You're like, okay, everybody, I'm checking out for a while. I got to go do some work on myself. You remember that post? And you were gone. Poof, right? Okay. What does Lori Spagna do when you're off by yourself? Work, because you're a wealth of knowledge. You know what to do. What happened? What tell us about that
I'll
journey?
tell you what happened. I mean, I was over, I got to a point of kind of like burnout. I was just over giving and over delivering, and I wasn't doing enough replenishing, right? So what I did was I checked out. I've been traveling for the past 4 months. I've kind of been not, like not out in the world. Just what did I do? I went out into nature. I traveled up from Florida all the way up to Massachusetts. Now I'm in upstate New York. And I just stopped everywhere and I'd be like, where's my joy today? What do I want to do? Where do I want to stop? I just became a child again. I was like, that looks fun. That looks fun. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go play here. And I'd spend a lot of time. This is one of the things people can do. I'll give you such a powerful tool that people can do right now, because you can start activating. We didn't talk about the DNA yet, but we all have, I mean, this has come up on your show. We all have dormant DNA waiting to be unlocked, right? The dormant DNA contains our greatest potentials, like solutions to our problems, right? For example, in the year 2020, I'm going to teach people right now how they can start activating DNA so easily. This is one of the things I was doing. But for example, in 2020, we know there was COVID, right? We have codes in our DNA of immunity and imperviousness. Now you got to activate it really for it to work, but it does. I sat next to a guy who had COVID. It was in a room full of, 20 or more people. He had COVID. We didn't know. He was coughing all over the place. I never got it because of the codes of immunity and imperviousness. The people in the room that I activated their codes of immunity and imperviousness, they didn't get it. The other people did. This is within us. It's not woo-woo. It's real. It's real. But it won't work if someone goes, if they activate their skepticism, their cynicism, their doubt, their disbelief, they brush it off. Okay, well then that's your free will choosing.
Those are the complainers with the negative baggage.
Yes.
Yeah.
But let me just say, this is one of the things I do. You go into nature, somewhere where it's peaceful and quiet, and you just allow the sun to come in through your periphery vision. Like you don't have to look at it, but there's rays of light that come from the sun, right? And you just call that in and you breathe it in like it's coming in through your side of your eye. And you just say activate, awaken, energize. Now you got to take in that light. You really have to take it in, because the sun, which we could call the Son of God, has light codes to help us to awaken and enlighten ourselves. Okay, if you're just doing it with your brain, it's not very effective. You do have to understand the energy, and you can even drink it in. This is one of the things I've done so many times. Like this, the light codes are coming. I just swallow it in and let my whole body get activated. And you just activate it, energize it, amplify it, anchor it, and allow it to permeate through your entirety. This might sound woo-woo, but this is within us.
That's not woo-woo.
All right, good.
I think it's fact.
I'm
I think
glad.
it's fact. When I get up in the morning, okay, I want to get back to your soul journey here. I don't want this to get away from us. I want to know, you were missing. I want to know what happened. Anyway, I've developed this over time, but certainly over the last 4 years, it's hit me like an ice pick in the forehead, this realization. I cannot function unless I go out into the sun the first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird. It's weird.
Why is that weird?
Well, because I never did it before. I was nocturnal. Shit, I slept through the day.
I get it.
You know what I mean? And so, but now I have my morning ritual, right? Obviously, get up, shower, downstairs, little cup of espresso, right? Make that. And I walk out either on my front patio or my back patio, and I let that friggin' sun hit me right in the face.
Yeah.
And that's, if I don't do that, if I don't, and there's days that I don't, I'm not right.
Yeah.
I don't feel right for the whole
Do you know
day.
that? Do you know, because every day the sun, again, like if you think of it, the sun, S-U-N of God, is shining its light on you, the sun, S-O-N of God, and it's enlightening you either for the day or the year. Like on your birthday, you have 3 days of power. The day before, the day of, and the day after your birthday. That's when the Son of God is directly shining its light on you, the Son of God, and enlightening you, with powering you up and charging you energetically for all of the energy that you need for the year ahead,
For
or
sure.
for the day
For
ahead.
sure. And I also think, and you're right, it's all of that. And then there's the scientific component. There is probably chemistry and chemical changes that get activated in your brain and your bloodstream and your nervous system, that, melatonin to serotonin, all of these things that happen that turn on the systems. All the switches are going click, 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 click. And I think that's part of it too. And man, I wish I would have figured this out when I was 20.
Yeah.
I was too busy chasing guitars and women and fun. Well, we all, when we were 20, damn it, man. If I had this knowledge, I had to wait.
I'm serious. This is the thing. I always feel like that too. I'm like, I wish I knew everything that I know now. 20 years ago, I would have had such a more fulfilling, rewarding life. But this kind of stuff really does fill you up. It does when you start practicing it and applying it. And this is one of the other things I want to say. In the brain, how we've been functioning as mostly through this left analytical brain, what we didn't always realize was how we could use different parts of the brain in conscious ways. So, for example, there's the amygdala in the back of the brain, these little nodules in the back of the brain. They fill up with fear. Unnecessary fear, but that's just energy. So there's actually different kinds of breathing practices, not just breathing, but meditative practices where we can actually clear that gunk, fear, unnecessary fear out of the brain. Same thing with the hippocampus, right? The hippocampus in the brain stores up, it definitely has fight, flight, fear. Okay, we need that. We need the fight, flight, fear, but not the unnecessary trauma-based fear. We don't need that. But traumas are being stored in parts of our brain, hippocampus and the amygdala, and unnecessarily. And we can clear that stuff out. Once you
How? Tell me how to do it.
meditative practices and processes, similar, some of the stuff I've just mentioned about the sun, but you have to directly utilize meditative practices to clear that energy out. It's not something I can necessarily teach in 5 minutes, but even if you're doing deep breath with the intention of clearing it out, and then combining it with certain energies, for
Vodkas.
example, violet flame. People know about violet flame, right?
Oh, I said vodka, not violet.
Oh, yeah,
flame.
that's yours.
I said vodka. Will vodka help
Okay,
clear
that
out?
doesn't really work, Jimmy. It's just short term. That's
Well,
just like
okay.
short
Yeah,
term
it
band-aid.
works. It
for
works
your
for
fear.
a night. Yeah.
It doesn't really do it. The vodka is the band-aid. No, you can clear that stuff out. And even if you just start breathing in, people in this podcast know about the violet flame, Saint Germain and the violet flame. You can
Absolutely.
call forward. That's just energy too. It is light, but it's also energy. So you can call forward with your breath work, the violet flame, to start clearing out unnecessary fear and to transmute it, because that's what the violet flame does. There's other energies like that, diamond white light. I mean, people may not know about that. There's other energies that do that stuff. Sacred fire, diamond white light. Just by breathing that in with the intention to clear that fear out. Okay, if you've never done this stuff before, you're sort of like, I don't know what that is. I don't know how to do that. That's weird. Does it work? Doesn't it work? I don't know. I tried it. But that's why you got to get yourself into circles where it's like I do this with my groups all the time. This is what we do. Now, once you clear that stuff out, you don't realize you're liberated in a way that you didn't even know you could be. It's like you start seeing things so differently. You're like,
Oh, I get it so much. I absolutely love our community and the world that I've been exposed to. And I think it's all about balance. But here's the thing, and I admit it now. Before I was in the closet with all of this stuff, but I admit it now. So my neighbors see me rolling up the street on my Harley, right? Black leather, just and pulling in the garage, and I'm taking off my gear and I'm looking all, and I walk right in to a fairy filled crystal adorned house, right? Yeah. Where I am talking, my guest, we're going to talk about higher vibrations that night on the show, where and it is something that is real, that is tangible. It is crazy to me to go through these experiences and to look at the self like I do. But you know what though? I'll punch somebody in the neck. I will.
Well, you saw that hard edge of you, but you're just a teddy bear. You know it. Everybody knows you.
Well, it's smoke and mirrors, Lori. It's smoke and mirrors.
I want to tell you about the crystals. Do you know do the crystals? Do we have time for that? Crystals activate DNA too. When you start understanding that crystals are just record keepers, right? I mean, I know you know this, but not most people do. People in our communities know it, right? Crystals are record keepers and timekeepers, and they're just holding energy, just like we're energy, and that energy can help activate the DNA as well. When you learn how, I've been leading crystal retreats for, I don't know, a lot of years. We do teach people how to communicate with the crystals, how to use them to awaken and activate the DNA, how to communicate with them. They're record keepers and timekeepers. So you can access all kinds of information and knowledge and energy by working with crystals. And when you have them around your house, you can, by the way, when you have things like tsunamis and storms like we've been seeing, crystals are amazing protectors. So, for example, do you remember, I don't know if you remember Hurricane Sandy, many years
back in the 80s? Yeah, of course.
Right, this is when I was just starting to wake up about crystals.
Right.
I really didn't understand it at that time. I did this little crystal dropping around my parents' house because they lived in New York on the water. And I did a little sacred prayer, a little, just a blessing. And I asked the crystals to surround the house. And I said, from ceilings to floors, this came to me, it was given to me, from ceilings to floors, windows to doors, guard and protect this house. Like anyone can do this, right? You have to do it like with humility, with prayer, reverence, and just thank you, thank you, thank you. When I did that with Hurricane Sandy, my parents live on the water right near Manhattan. Every house on their block flooded, $10,000 worth of damage or more. Their house was untouched. This stuff works. One of my students was recently in LA during the fires. She was in a high fire zone. Her house was untouched, even though the neighborhoods around were pretty bad, right? So this is a tool we can all start using. Like, it's effective.
Oh, Hurricane Sandy was in 2012.
Oh, is that when that was?
Yeah, I was. What was I thinking of that hit Florida in the 80s?
That might have been Matthew, or no, that was Matthew. Was way later.
What was the one that just wiped out Florida in the 80s? Somebody will pop up here somebody in one of you moderators, Andrew. That's what it was.
Oh, right. That was before I lived.
Ooh, man.
But I will tell you, I've done this stuff every single hurricane in Florida. I'll have people calling me and they're saying, is everything okay? Is everything fine? And I'm like, or I've been in classes where I'm leading classes and meditations and there's a hurricane. And I'm like, yeah, you can see behind me, but nothing is happening here. Like, we're fine. But because we have the ability even to affect the weather, for example, not necessarily in this way, but you can use crystals not only create sacred space and to protect, but also to work with the weather, because the weather patterns, again, this might sound out there, but they're just restoring some kind of balance or harmony in the area, right? For example, tsunamis. Let's go to tornadoes, for example. They're just like wiping out something that's not right, right? A tsunami can be doing some kind of cleanse. Water's almost always some sort of cleanse. So if the crystals and your consciousness has, in a sense, created a sacred space and said, we're good here, all is well. And if the person or people involved don't dip into the fear, the anxiety, the worry, but can hold the space to know this is safe and sacred, all is well here. We've set up this space. We've made the request. It's as good as done. They can hold that frequency because that's energy and vibration. The house will be untouched, or the location will be untouched, because the weather pattern just does what it needs to do. But if that area, wherever you've done that little ritual, that little practice, it doesn't need to be touched because that space is already in harmony and resonance with the divine. Does that make sense?
It does.
If more people understood this, that weather patterns are in some way, they are a form of consciousness too. They're just doing something in relationship to the location that needs to somehow be restored. And so if the human in that weather pattern storm, I'm saying all of us, can find a way to be the vibrational harmony, which we can be through energy and consciousness, we can become the vibrational harmony that does not need that storm to do some form of damage for the restoration. Does that make sense?
Well, if you think about it, ancient cultures always dealt with things in this way.
For sure. Yeah. We just as a society, we've been raised to believe that was something that was, ancient cultures or indigenous, or wasn't available to us, or wasn't possible for us. And even if you look at mainstream media, like even now, they have these shows on there like, is there a ghost? Or is there a gut? Like, or they'll talk it like sensational, or as is ESP real? Like, yes, it's real. Like, that's just part of how the society is cultured to infuse doubt and disbelief into it, rather than the knowing that it's part of who we are. It's part of our divine birthright to access our infinite potential within us and to awaken it and utilize it for our betterment.
It's nature. We have the right to that.
It's our divine nature. It's natural.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. Let's take our break right here. Lori, just stay right there. Let me get the break in. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Lori Spagna. We're talking about how to raise your vibration. We're going to do that all night on the show. More with Lori right after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. Today we're headed to Bolivia, Tiwanaku, Peru, and of course, Pumapunku. Brian, exciting. Thank you so much for everything, my friend.
Always an honor. Right behind us is the sacred river of the Inca that goes past Machu Picchu. So we're going to be driving up to its source at 15,000 feet above sea level and then down to Lake Titicaca.
So today we hit 15,000 feet.
Yes.
Crazy. And you can do it with us. All you have to do is go to hiddenincatours.com. Simple. We've got 2 tours coming up next year, one in June for the summer solstice,
That's
right? And then another one right here in November. So hiddenincatours.com. Come and hang out with Brian and I and his amazing team.
Right on.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Lori Spagna is with us. We're talking about raising your vibration. And Lori, manifesting. And I'm going to start with this. How can you change your life's direction with negativity and no manifestation? It ain't gonna happen. If you plot it out and you know what your bliss is and whatever that is, your little secret thing that you've got inside of you. If you don't plant that, the universe is not going to respond and help you with your charting your course. You can't. Am I expressing this correctly? Because I'm a firm believer in all of that.
Yeah.
So what is, first off, for those that are checking in for the first time on these subjects, what is manifesting?
Manifestation is just the actualization into the physical reality, that which you think, believe, and perceive,
Right.
and what you energetically create, right? So we're manifesting 24/7, whether we realize it or not. Like, I have a colleague and a friend, she recently came to me about her animal companion. She was like, my animal, I've been going through all these tests with my animal, and
Well, who do we have here? Hold on. Who just came in?
That's mine.
Oh, what's his name?
Emma.
Oh, is she Emma?
Emma Shasta. Yeah. She sits on my lap a lot of times when I'm doing.
She's amazing.
Comes right on. Yeah, she's my angel. So, but here's the thing. One of my colleague friends, she was like, we're doing all these tests and we don't know what's going on, and there's all these things happening. And I was like, it's a little bit of a story, but basically what she was saying was, I've always said I would do anything for my baby. Right. And I was like, you're manifesting this, like you're co-creating this experience, because you've been telling the universe and you've been affirming you would do anything for your baby, meaning her dog. And so if that was her miscreating. See, the challenge is a lot of times we're miscreating. We don't even realize our thoughts, our energy, our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, our belief systems, all of that non-physical energy, non-physical matter is emanating from us into the field of energy that basically is us. We are at one with, right? It's part of all that is. And it reflects back to us in physical reality. That's manifesting. We're actualizing what we think about, what we believe, what we perceive, and how we emote, and what our attitudes are. Now, if you take that and you combine that with overall, every being on earth has an agenda, like our soul's agenda. The soul's agenda is, what is this person here to somehow learn, or how are they here to grow or evolve, or what are they here to somehow heal or karmically resolve, energetically resolve? So it's going to be something we're meant to learn, grow, heal, resolve. And those areas of what I call the soul's journey, those are typically blind spots. So we don't know. That's why we're stretched, right? When we're in, like, working through what we could call shadow aspects, or challenges, or struggles, or frustrations, or anxieties, or fears, those are usually almost always some form of soul agenda at work to help us to grow and evolve, right? And so through that, we somehow up level because we resolve something, and chances are it's been some kind of pattern that we've had like our whole lifetime, repeats over and over again, like the hamster wheel, right? And until we start to step back and be like, wait a minute, I've gone through this before. Like, this has happened. I'm choosing something different. I'm going to take all the wisdom that I've gained and apply it. That's when we don't have to recreate. But those two things together are basically what makes up our life journey, right? And so the whole thing about the blind spots is the recognition that those are the things that we typically don't know. We're not necessarily prepared for it. Those are the things that sort of, they challenge us. And
I'm going to say this right now. Emma's got it all figured out.
Yeah, she does.
She's got it all figured out.
She's like, amazing. She totally knows you're talking about her right now.
It is such an important point. If you play the victim and you're surrounding yourself with negativity and no future, then man, the universe is going to give you just that.
Yeah, because you're constantly creating. You're constantly. Yeah. We cannot not be creators. We cannot not be creators. So when we talk about manifesting, the whole idea of manifesting is that people are starting to become more and more conscious that they can create a life that they desire, or outcomes or things that they want to have or do or be or experience. And so they're doing it in a more conscious way through usually visualization and some form of meditative practice. But I tell people you want to know what the fastest and easiest way is to manifest something? It's so
Tell me.
easy. Just think about it all day long.
I know, right?
Attach to it a positive energy like excitement or enthusiasm or anticipation, like, oh my God, I'm so excited. This is what I'm creating. This is what I'm having. I can't wait. This is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to feel like. Oh my God, this is so awesome. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so amazing. I'm going to love it. Like it doesn't even have to be that extreme. It could just be like, I'm really looking forward to XYZ. I'm so looking forward to this. It's going to be I'm really looking forward to it. And you just keep thinking about it and attach a positive emotion. That is the fastest and easiest way to manifest, because you're manifesting anyway. Now, the moment the fear comes in, because this is what happens for people, right? I don't know if it's real. Is it going to work? Did I do it right? Is it effective? Like, okay, now that's the energy that's going to slow it down. Or the energy of skepticism or cynicism.
That's right.
This is ridiculous.
I mean, it's so simple. Right. It's not easy. Nobody's saying it's easy, but it's very simple.
It is easy if it's a positive thing that you like and you're not.
Well, there's no mystery. There's no great secret here. Is what I'm saying. Right.
Yes.
You're my guest. The show was not about me, but let me tell you, I'm just going to say this. About 25 years ago, this is 2025. So about 25 years ago, things in my life spiraled out of control. Now, I'm not going to get into those details, but I got to the point where, and I was struggling, and I had my two daughters, right? I had Rita, and it was just like, man, nobody is going to help me. Mm-hmm. I've got to get out of that frame of mind. Mm-hmm. Honestly, nobody gives a shit. Okay. It's about me. And it was that I just hit this point where, and suddenly I went, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Boom, boom, boom. And I made this thing, this commitment, this contract with myself. I went to my kids. I went to Rita and I said, okay. And my family, I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to go back to school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I want to start this thing. And I made up my mind, full of nothing but goals and positive thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I got everything done. It wasn't done overnight. Going back to school at my age, at the age of 40, what? Who does that? Right. But it was just one little thing after another. It was all positive steps. There was no negativity in my life.
You reclaimed your power.
Well, I started to realize it was the negative stuff that I was thinking about that was holding me back. Also, I'm serious. Playing the victim.
But see, that was part of your soul's agenda, from my perspective. And as I'm hearing you, and I mean, I'm psychic, but I'm not always using that. It's just so obvious, right? Your soul came here with an agenda to clear victim consciousness. So you were going through that for some degree of time. So you could finally, as a conscious being, start to recognize, I'm not a victim of my own story. Here's what I need to do to change my experience and to elevate myself out of this. Even if you didn't at that time call yourself a victim or think of it as victim consciousness, you made obviously very clear calculations that said, I'm going to change my reality. And here's the steps I'm going to take. And you chose deliberately and with intent to use the energy of various kinds of positivity to uplift yourself and to make a new choice in the trajectory of your life. But while you were going through that shadow stuff of feeling like a victim, hopeless, whatever you're going through, that's the shadow stuff that there's no one who escapes life on earth without going through those things at some time. Like
You got to
that
do it.
old
It's all the journey.
yeah. So you're working through your shadow stuff, and that's part of the soul's agenda, right? So when you share a story like that, Jimmy, that helps people to understand, because so much of our old paradigm reality is based on, these false, fake, phony ways of being. Take a snapshot of your cool food and your pretty images, and you know what I mean?
Which I did this weekend.
But you're being authentic and sharing that authentic truth
Right.
about yourself, which is what helps people to realize, like, everybody goes through stuff like that, even though every soul's agenda is unique and different. Overall, everyone goes through shadow stuff where we have to work through that and somehow, elevate ourselves so that we can learn and grow and evolve.
It is so important. And
Yeah.
one of the things, and let's talk about this. That, and I did this without reading, but I was on that path, and I was dipping my toe in the water, but I did most of this because I figured out what wasn't working. And what wasn't working was, I realized that people want to be around people that are positive and have a beam of light glowing around them. If you're walking around with negative thoughts, or people don't want to be around you. People, and so it was all baby steps. It doesn't happen overnight. But I
Right.
told you earlier, I said to the audience, I wake up in the morning and go out and let the light hit my face so I can turn on. Now, to get to that point, to have a house that you can walk outside of, right? And to be in this thing. Look what's around me.
Yeah.
Right?
All your favorite
Okay.
things.
Right. That's all part. But to get to this point, that is a long road of positive thought and manifestation. It's not a road of negative thought, or being pissed off at, or pointing fingers, or talking shit about other people. That's bad stuff to do. Don't do it. Don't.
Really just,
I'm going to say this. I'm going to let me say this. I want everybody to listen to me, including you, Lori. Somebody show me anywhere, in social media, in an private email, a recorded phone call. Show me something somewhere where I talked smack. It doesn't exist. I live what I am saying, right? I truly do that. I'm not saying that I'm not a dick, because I am. I don't spread that. And I want people to see who I am, and they can also, if we all do our little part, then that is the change that we are looking for, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I love that you just said that, Jimmy, because you know what? So many people are looking at the world right now and feeling discouraged, and, in some cases hopeless and disempowered. And we don't always realize how powerful it is. One of the things that the ascended masters say through channeling is that when one person positively uplifts themselves, the entire world is uplifted, because everyone is connected through that one source.
Right.
And we might define and understand that source differently, but regardless, that source that is infinite consciousness, we are all part of it. So when one person works through their own shadow stuff, which you clearly have, when you're explaining that story, it's really true that you are contributing to the betterment in the world.
I walked out. I was in. I'll be back in Peru in a few weeks, and a couple of times this year. I love Peru. I love just the countries, just going out and experiencing the culture. But I'm walking out. We're in the Sacred Valley, staying at this really cool hotel. I walk out of my room into this courtyard. Beautiful, right? Really, really, really cool. And there was this lady, Indian, sitting on the steps outside of my room. And she is crocheting a blanket, a Peruvian shawl or whatever. The most insane artwork you've ever seen, right? And I don't know how old she was, but I'm going to say 75. Okay? And she's sitting there, she's got a thing, and I sneak up behind her, watching her with, doing her thing, and this, oh man, it was beautiful. And I fired up my phone. Anyway, I went down and whispered in her ear. Okay, she doesn't speak English. And I said, "That's beautiful." And you know what she did? She goes just like this. This little laugh. And I came around and she was smiling. That is somebody that is happy. Right? I mean, go and experience that. Come back to this country.
You shared with her the energy of loving kindness.
100%.
You shared with her the energy. You could call it the energy of beauty, the energy, but to me, it's the energy of loving kindness. So this is another example of why energy is universal, right? Because she didn't have to understand your words to know what you meant energetically. You were complimenting sincerely the beauty. Literally,
I saw her for the next 3 days, morning, noon, and night, right? Walking by. And she was just, you know what I mean? But the point is that we are all the same on this planet. And when you go out and you see somebody that is truly happy about life and everything else, and then look back at yourself, do that self-reflection at that moment. Am I happy? Am I doing the right thing? Am I glowing inside like this person is?
Yes. Yeah, because we are the ones who have to live with our own self. We're the ones who have to wake up to our own self and go to bed with our own self, right? So you're the only one. I'm saying you, but I mean all of us. We're the ones who have to feel good about who we are being. And that's what part of what, like, choosing to be our most extraordinary selves, choosing to be the best versions of ourselves right now is so important, because there are a gazillion things going on at any moment of any day that we cannot control. But what we can control is who we are being. And this is why I keep referring back to everything as energy, because you can take in the energy of joy, of kindness, of, grace, any moment of any day, just through breathing and then behaving in accordance with that. And also just by becoming conscious of your own self. What am I thinking? How am I feeling? Who am I being right now? And you can decide, just like you did, Jimmy, just like you just told us that story, you can decide to be the best version of yourself. And that doesn't mean, like, this is what I lead a visionary, sacred visionary group. It doesn't mean you don't bring your challenges to people or to group or somewhere where you can get support and help with that in appropriate places at appropriate times. Of course, this is not an easy reality to live on in planet Earth. Like, it's challenging us to grow and to evolve right now. And it is a fear-based reality that we're breaking free from. So that means stuff's going to come up. It's not easy for people. It's like time for us to start admitting, like, life on Earth is challenging. So we find right and appropriate places, mentors, healers, guides, coaches, support circles to work through that stuff, knowing that we're not pretending or denying that those things are there. And then at the same time, constantly reclaiming our right to be the best versions of ourselves through the way we behave, the way we think, and what we share in the world, just like how you shared with that woman. And I totally agree, Jimmy. Every time I see you at expos, I'm like, you're just so fun. You're always making people laugh and smile. And You know, that's such a positive quality to uplift others.
But you don't need a language to communicate that vibration.
Yes.
You just don't. And like I said, I just whispered in her ear, "That's beautiful." She didn't know what I said, right? But
But
the way
you probably
she
have
got
a
it.
smile on your face too, right? Because smile is a universal language as well. It doesn't matter like what language you speak or what country you're in. It's recognized worldwide. And from what I understand from the fleet and the other beings, star beings who I've channeled, they understand that language too. Like they know
I
that a smile is a
right.
sign of joy or happiness or kindness, something
I
like.
was watching her. I was watching her stitch. It's one stitch at a time, right? Just and she's doing the loop and a stitch, and I'm looking at the time it's taking her to do a stitch, and I'm looking at this blanket or shawl that she's doing. I'm thinking, man, what is that? A year? Right, just one stitch at a time doing the loop and the thing, and I'm looking at this, it's perfect, it's so beautiful, and what she is putting into that,
Mhm.
it just wow, it was such for me, it was just so moving, and she was right outside of my hotel room every day. I'm looking at all of her stuff that she has stacked up out there, all of her friends, they're all out there, it's their um, family and stuff, and looking at stacks of that stuff, the love that is put into that,
Mm,
and the bliss. Also, here's the thing, it's the tradition that has been handed down for
mm,
thousands of years,
mm.
right, to do this, which goes back to your knowledge and to others that share their knowledge. This has been handed down for a very long time. This is ancient wisdom, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, I will say that too. When going back to the DNA, we actually all of us have stored in our dormant DNA wisdom and knowledge from our ancestors. And if you're willing to go there with me past parallel lives, right? I mean, from my perspective, it's not even a question that you have past or parallel lives is more accurate because in quantum physics, all realities coexist, right? So you're in another time space reality as another person living a different life, right? Having different
Right.
experiences, but they overlap into this reality. And in this physical, the patterns of them, the energy of it overlaps. So you're kind of living similarly in a similar overlapping way. And the story of it, including all the wisdom you gained, is coded into your DNA as well. So whether you call it ancestral wisdom from your own storyline or from your actual human ancestors, it's coded in you. Like I have so many awarenesses from so many of my other lifetimes because I've activated so much of my dormant consciousness. So I've reclaimed, we have this ability to do this within us, reclaimed some of my greatest gifts that I mastered in other lifetimes. Like animal communication and telepathy, I didn't actually have to study that. Psychic development, I didn't really have to, I mean, I cultivated it, but it was really within me. It's stuff that I did in other lifetimes. I have this memory from like living as an Indian, like a young Indian girl who was cast out of the tribe, Native American, cast out of the tribe for challenging the elders about like medicine. And but rather than like just completely like ostracize me, they did ostracize me, but they made me follow behind them. I had to support myself entirely, take care of myself, but this way they always had an eye on me, right? So in that lifetime I learned how to work with herbs, and I learned like all about shaman, different kinds of medicine and healing and energies, and I learned how to communicate with animals. And it's amazing, we have this in us. We have the capacity to access our dormant knowledge and wisdom within us. But it's all about unlocking it with energy and vibration. Now,
How much of the world, I don't want to be negative, but there's an elephant in the room here. How much of the world doesn't give a crap about what you and I are talking about?
Well, most of them, as much as 80%, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
But you want to know why they don't give a crap? Because they're too busy just trying to put food on the table or,
Right.
survive, because that old paradigm is based in survival. See, the reason that people don't give a crap about this stuff is because they don't really yet understand how much it's going to improve their lives, not only the quality of their life personally, but it will improve the life of the people around them. And it will not only improve the life of the people around them, but overall elevate consciousness on earth. And that is really important right now. Because without elevating consciousness, humans are suffering and animals are suffering. So the whole point of this, to me, it's not just a bunch of woo-woo. Like, I didn't open up and access my psychic gifts and my animal telepathy abilities just for the fun of it. It was so that I could really help and support and assist in ways that were beyond my human comprehension, right? And we all, like I said, we all have these abilities. There's no one who's not psychic. You just have to learn how to access you have to learn how to access different brainwave frequencies. You have to learn how to be a translator of the information that comes through. You have to be able to activate your third eye, which we know that's just the pineal pituitary gland. So there's different things we have to develop and cultivate, but it's not like, it's so ridiculous to think that it's unimportant or insignificant when gaining access to these capacities is restoring from within us our capacity to improve our lives in every area and to facilitate the improvement of life on earth for others as well.
It for me. I test the waters myself when I talk about these subjects. I'm not making stuff up. I'm not making shit up. But when I go out with people or I'm around people that aren't part of our community. Now, some of these are people that I've known for a long time, 30, 40, 50 years. Maybe in some instances, family members. I'm not pointing fingers necessarily at a specific group of my family. But anyway, I will listen to their conversations. And the majority of it is fear-based complaining. Crazy, right?
Yeah, I get
and I'll jump in and go, I haven't been saying anything because honestly, I don't do any of this. How can you guys, and I've done it, I have stopped a conversation going, how can you guys and gals do this? Don't you understand what you are doing here, what you're perpetuating, what your belief system, your bubble, this whole thing that you're in? I can't relate to anything that you guys are talking about right now.
What do they say?
It's not part of what, and you know what the response is? Huh?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Because you understand that people are very wired. Our brains get wired, and the neurotransmitters in our brain just fire off. This is what it means when we say we're unconscious. We're just running the same patterns and the same programs and the same ways of thinking and believing and behaving and emoting. And until we consciously choose to rewire, repattern, and realign ourselves energetically, that's when we become better or new people, right? Because we have to make a conscious choice to change. We have to decide we want something better. Otherwise, if a free will choice person is just choosing to not change, and most people really don't want to change. Most people don't.
Change is hard.
I think this is really funny. Jimmy, you'll get a kick out of this. The other night, I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and I was saying, yeah, most people really don't want truth. If they did, we wouldn't even have the leaders that we have, the world leaders. Like, there's no way. If people wanted truth, even in the spiritual, metaphysical communities, at the consciousness expos, you said this yourself. It's like a lot of times people don't really want truth. And so the question remains is, well, that's okay. You have a free will choice. But if you don't want truth, then this is the reality that we have. If you don't like the reality that we have, then we have to change. That can only come from within. If you don't want truth, then you're going to get false, phony, fake leaders who lie and who create, who attempt to control, dominate, manipulate for their own selfish agendas, to the harm to the many, for the benefit of the few, to the harm to the many. That's what we get. And that's what, like, you know, the ancient traditions have meant when they say things like ignorance is bliss. Because
Well,
you just
yeah,
don't
and
want
here's
truth,
here's
then this is what happens.
right, right, right. And to your point, it's not just politics and political leaders.
It's not
It's
just
all
politics.
it's
The
all
food and
leaders.
beverage industry.
Right,
It's,
right. It's
I mean, it's everything.
corporations. It's
It's the
yes, yeah.
financial industry. It's the educational industry.
Military. Yep,
It's the
yep, yep, yep.
government. Yes, it's across.
Teaching
It's big tech.
institutions.
Big
Yeah,
tech. Big tech has done
big tech.
so much to try to suppress and control and dominate and manipulate. So it's just, and it's, again, it's not really the fault of people. It's the structures, systems, and societies that have been built in this old paradigm that's all based in the fear, domination, control, manipulation for the benefit of the few to the harm to the many. That's what's shifting now. But we're still in the in a sense, very early stages of it, because humans are just starting to wake up and realize, like, oh, I can create a better reality by becoming more conscious. And that means I have to seek more truth, you know, because here's what I would say about truth. It's not always pretty, but it always ultimately serves you. And the other thing about truth is, because we live in this reality that's very subjective, perspective based. So if you perceive something and I perceive something different, and if it's just perspective based, it's like subjective, right? Well, who's to say what's real? You see a red dot, I see a blue dot. Who's to say it's real? However, absolute truth does not require belief in order for it to be real and true. Absolute truth is absolutely true, regardless of whether or not somebody believes it. And if you just even take that statement and really allow that to sink in, you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. Absolute truth does not require belief. It's absolutely true. So when someone starts seeking absolute truth, now they can no longer be lied to. Now they can no longer be manipulated. They can no longer be controlled. They can no longer be dominated. They start to seek truth in service for their betterment. And as that happens, they're only interested in what is for the betterment of, if it's for themselves, they understand it has to be for the betterment of all. This is a natural part of what happens as we evolve. But seeking truth becomes really an important piece of it, right?
Yeah, I often wonder how many, and if we're talking about billions here, it's not, you know, but how many are steered throughout life by a bubble that they refuse to climb out of, right?
Yeah.
And so they assume that everybody else is just like them because their bubble is their existence.
That's right. Because your lens of your perspective is what you believe to be truth.
And you think the whole world is just like you, right?
Yeah.
It's insane to me. And so, and how I came to this realization is I stopped, and I did this over 10 years ago. I stopped watching the news.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have not watched any news media on a television in over 10 years.
Me neither. Me
Yeah,
neither.
I stopped.
I refuse because it's all brainwashing. So I'm sorry.
Yep. I physically changed.
Agenda there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I physically
Your health
know
will
what
improve and your happiness will improve.
It's crazy
It is.
how I changed. And now, you know, when I watch it, when I have to, if there's fires and there's natural things going on and I've got to,
Right.
Okay, yeah, all right. But everything else is fed to me.
Yeah.
And
You know,
I stopped.
do you
I
know
stopped.
one of the things that I teach in my psychic development classes and the intuitive development classes is divine discernment. And it's not even always for me to teach it, but like you can use a pendulum to start learning. Of course, you know about pendulums and dowsing rods, but you have the technology within your own consciousness to develop your capacity for divine discernment, to know truth and to know when someone's lying. And it's not that you're seeking that out. You're not looking for liars. You're looking for truth. Because if somebody's on the news or on the TV or whatever, some false authority telling you have to do something and you think you don't have a choice, you're being forced. That's because you just haven't necessarily expanded your capacity yet to know truth. Because, for example, in this reality, one of the things I've come to learn through my healing abilities and my extrasensory abilities is to know that the divine will always will continue to provide freedom of choice. So when a person says, I was forced to do this, I had no choice, it's because they were not aligned with the divinity within them that knew they could ask for another choice, right? Another choice will always be provided. So developing divine discernment gives you the talents and abilities within, the natural organic ability within, to not only just know truth, but also to expand more potentials for yourself that maybe you didn't even know were available to make your life better. So another one of the things I teach in the psychic development classes, I teach a practice.
Man, that is so strong. Woo!
Oh,
I
good.
had to just absorb that a second time. Well, okay. Before we get to, you just said another thing I teach, so we'll circle back to that. What I do, and I think everybody should do this, I choose what I want to learn. That is my free will. I choose that. Well, and my
Yeah.
producer Renee chooses it for me too as well. But she's inside of my head. She knows. And I do the news every day live. I do it in the afternoon. And believe it or not, we do the news, and she's so good at it. We do stuff that, believe it or not, is actually out there if you want to dig for it. Everything is not doom and gloom steered towards you to throw fear in you and to get you to emotionally react.
Yes.
And I do read what I need to. I want to be aware. I'm not saying I'm just a doofus, but I don't, what's the word? I don't allow intrusion.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the thing. That's why especially mass media is typically used to keep people in fear, because people are more easily controllable when they're in a state of fear. This is fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this is why one of the things what I was saying earlier that I teach.
Right.
In
What do you teach? I'm sorry, that's my bad. Lori,
you
I
can
apologize.
start learning. No, that's right. It's just people can learn this. You can start to learn to ask who stands with you. So, for example, when I'm channeling and a being comes to me and says, I want to channel, I want to share something, I learn to ask, who stands with you, or who do you stand with? This is how I started knowing if a being in the non-physical was truly in service to the light, meaning the expansion of consciousness, or in service to some other secret, private, covert agenda, because I can see who stands with them or who they stand with. So, for example, if you have a political leader or even just anyone on TV speaking, and you start learning to ask who stands with them or who do they stand with, you'll start to see. Same thing with spiritual leaders, healers like me. You can ask when you start developing your capacity. It's not something that happens through the brain. It's not something you can just ask and then hear it through the brain, although that's possible for sure. You can actually start to expand into your capacity to see and to know. I've taught students, they can see like thousands of beings standing with me. This isn't like everyone has this ability. So if some leader on the TV, for example, just as an example, is teaching something or saying something or telling people to be afraid or something, if you develop that capacity, you can see that a lot of the world leaders just have a lot of black demons with them.
They are black demons. What do
A
you mean
lot of
they
them
have
do, or black, like goo, or just heaviness, or like, it's just so, it's yucky. And when you become more empathically sensitive, as we are all becoming more sensitive. That's why you were talking about your compassion for what's going on in the world, right? We are becoming more compassionate, more sensitive, but you can feel into it too. You can feel into it. Like, this is why so many empaths I work with will come to me and they'll be like, I just don't want that energy. And I'm like, okay, but you're in resistance to the energy. If you're in resistance, it's just going to stick onto you like glue, right? Because there's a lot of yucky stuff attaching on to some of the leaders of our world, or some of the people out there in the world who are just bringing negativity in. This even goes back to what you were saying about complainers, because a person who's complaining a lot typically is carrying a lot of negativity. And a lot of times who stands with them is just, they don't even know there's beings around them. This is, if I can go on just a little bit more, one of the things that really makes me so sad is that I know that people who either sometimes commit suicide or who are involved in extreme addiction, it's because they have like entities or demonics in their ear saying, go drink that, or go smoke that, or go drive off that bridge, or whatever, and they don't even know, right? Like, even the phenomena of split personalities, or multiple personalities, that's just entities. And healers can clear that stuff. Powerful, gifted healers, not, beginners. That's a powerful thing to be able to do, to help clear that. But because our society doesn't recognize this stuff, people are suffering with that.
That's right. That's such a good point.
It's not taught.
No, and here's the thing. Most of us have crazy ass thoughts, right? We do. We just don't act on them.
But okay,
right.
You're so right.
Let me finish.
Okay.
We don't act on them. And
Right.
so because of that, we don't necessarily understand somebody else that's going through issues that they can't control. There's a difference there. It's so easy to go, well, yeah, I've thought about robbing a bank, but I've never done it. I've thought about getting addicted to heroin, right? But I've never done it. But we all fantasize about crazy stuff. We just don't act on it. But there are people out there, for whatever reason, have to go through serious conflict, and we just sit back and go, I don't get it. And that's the problem, is that we don't want to take the time to understand what somebody else may be going through.
Yeah.
And why? What's the root cause?
Remember when you said, like, how many people really care about this? And I was like, yeah, maybe as much as 80% of the people don't even care, maybe more. But if one of those people has an addiction in their family and doesn't realize, like, addictions can be cleared when you start clearing the entities and the demonics from a person's field. Okay, there's probably more to it. Usually there's other factors too, but that's a major factor. Then suddenly this becomes something more important. Or here's another one, seizures. Seizures, a lot of times, not always, but in a lot of cases, are coming from some being either trying to get in and squeeze out another being, like hijacking a body, or they're coming from some form of, I don't know if I should stay or should I go. The person or the animal is energetically split, right? That can be resolved through soul reunion, right? When there's soul fragments, that creates a split or a schism energetically. So this stuff isn't so woo-woo when you start realizing, like, this can actually help heal animals and people from major life crises that our current society is not addressing because they don't care about it. But these are the kinds of solutions we're talking about. Codes of immunity and imperviousness in the DNA, things that we've mentioned on the call today, working with crystals. I'm calling the podcast. Working with crystals, learning how to set up sacred space, learning how to awaken your dormant potential. These are tools that will help you if you start using and applying them. And as our society starts to recognize the value in these kinds of tools, they're going to aid in all kinds of things as we go forward, because more and more people are starting to see, like, working with energy will help heal addictions, will help heal all kinds of physical traumas, will help heal suicidal types of issues, will help multiple personality issues, and on and on and on. I mean, it's, to me, as a healer who just understands how to work with energy and how to incorporate, because it's always the divine that does the healing. I'm the facilitator, I'm the translator, I'm the, person who uses the energy that the divine brings through to facilitate the healing. But working with energy is really the way ultimately to heal. It's so powerful. It can heal, like, every disease is healable. Every disease is healable.
The key is consciousness, isn't it? The key is consciousness at every level.
Free will choice. Because if a person says, I don't believe in it, I'm not, we talked about that too. If a person just isn't interested or isn't willing, or unfortunately, part of what's happened in our society is we've been sort of manipulated or trained, however you say it, to believe that somehow spiritual healing should happen the way you think it happens. Like a person in a wheelchair goes up to a pulpit, and the minister puts his hands on, and then 2 seconds later, hallelujah, I've been healed. When that's not really how energy works, right? Because
right.
It takes a lot longer for the physical body.
Yeah, that whole, you are healed.
Right. So because people have a miscalculation about how it should work and what their expectations are, they don't always necessarily realize. They expect it to happen much faster. Energy healing can take some time, but it's never painful. It's almost always enjoyable. It's overall very positively uplifting. And I mean, it's never as costly half the time as like traditional methods. So it's really, to me, such a powerful solution that we have, that we'll be able to utilize this kind of stuff to heal ourselves going forward. I don't think that humans are going to be suffering, and animals are going to be suffering the same physical diseases as we become more conscious, because we're all healers. We all have and everything's healable.
Does everybody now understand why I hang out with Lori? Does everybody understand? You're magical. You're absolutely magical. We've got your links below. I'm going to share something positive with you, though. Do you have Netflix?
Yes.
Okay. The new season, listen, everybody, the new season of Love, Death, and Robots is out, season 4. All right. There is an episode called, and listen to me, you can thank me later. It's called Close Encounters of the Mini Kind. Close Encounters of the Mini Kind. All right. Go and watch it. I'm not going to give anything away. I'm just not going to do it. Love, Death, and Robots. Close Encounters of the Mini Kind. Laura, are you writing it down? Do you even care? I'm dispensing of life-changing information.
Can I just tell you, my brain is brilliant. I've got that.
Okay, you got it?
I got it.
Okay. Then I expect an email from you. I expect an email from you tomorrow. Church, that was amazing.
Okay.
All right, Lori. Hey,
all right.
Have a great night. Where can everybody reach out to you?
Well, first of all, they can go to my YouTube channel and get activated with their codes of immunity and imperviousness, Lori Spagna. My website is lorispagna.com. If you want to learn about how to activate your DNA, you can go to lorispagna.com/free gifts/DNA. and get
I've
your
got all the
DNA
links up, everybody. Yeah, all the links are there. We've been posting them all night.
website, right? There's lots of free gifts there. You can learn about your starseed origins and your role as in the Indigo family tribe, and you can awaken your psychic gifts, your intuitive gifts, and learn how to help animals. It's all at the website, LoriSpagna.com.
Lori, you're the best. I can't wait to see you again, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
You're the best. Lori, you know how much I love you. All right.
Love you, Jimmy.
So, I'll see you out there. Thank you, Lori. Have a great night. Lori Spagna, everybody. Another perfect night on the show. And tomorrow night, I do want to remind everybody, we've got a great week coming up. Tomorrow night, Dana Louise is with us. And the show is called This Is Going to Sound Weird. That is the name of her book. Go and check out the show description. Tomorrow is going to be a great conversation. I want to thank Lori for everything that she does. Her links are below, again, on our website and throughout social media. And we've got all the links up in the chat for all of those gifts and everything that she's laid out for us. Okay, so another great night on the show. I will see everybody tomorrow with Dana Louise. Until then, all I've got is go backly tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go backly tappy.